All right. We are now going to discuss about PTE. This session is especially for the beginners. If you already know about the exam structure, the kind of questions you get in the test, and how you're supposed to prepare for it, then you can stop watching it now, because I'm not going to talk about how to answer any specific questions, but I'm just going to tell you what happens on the day of the exam, and in general, what kind of questions are asked in your test and how you are supposed to answer those questions. And at any time, if you have any questions, please write in that email box that you can see on the side, and I'll try to answer to your emails. Do not hesitate to ask questions, because that's why we are doing this session. And talking about PT, by now, I hope all of you already know that this is a completely computer-based test. You have to do everything on a computer, and even your assessment is done by a computer. So everything you do will be checked by a computer algorithm, a computer program, which will try to find out how good your English is. Now, when we think about that, I think all of us can at least sense this. How can a computer check our speaking and writing? At least in reading and listening, answers can be fixed. And because of that, they can simply check whether the answer we gave is the answer they have or not, and decide how much score we should get. But how do they do this in speaking and writing? That's the most interesting part of this exam, because they use a program, a specific computer program to do this. There are some problems in this program, this algorithm, because of which we often can use different tricks to manipulate the scoring system and get the desired score. But that's not the focus of today's discussion. I'm only trying to show you how you should, what happens in your test and what you should do about it, or how should you prepare about it. In order to do this, we will do one complete mock test on our website. Not do it, but actually I will show you how questions are asked, in what order they are asked, and what you're supposed to do. And mock tests, of course, are a great way to learn about this, because our mock test is designed to replicate the exam environment, to help you understand and learn things in the same way you are asked to do in the exam. So let's just start one mock test. This is mock test 1, and this is what I'm going to start now. In your exam, before you see this screen, you actually have to give your introduction. Now, introduction is the first part of your test. This is the unscored part. They are not going to give you any score for the introduction, but you still have to give your introduction, which can be up to 1 minute long. Now, how long should you speak in introduction part? Around 30 seconds should be enough. But one thing you need to remember is you have to be prepared for this. Otherwise, in the exam, you are more likely to fumble, because it is unscored part. Most of us do not pay any attention to it, and that's understandable, because if you are not getting any score, what's the point of getting worried about it? But the reason you should do good in this part is because this is more like the introduction of the whole test. If you do some mistakes here, if you don't do that well in this part, you're more likely to get stressed in the subsequent sections and have more problems. So although this is unscored part, I still highly recommend that you prepare yourself for the introduction. And it's very simple. You can mention in your introduction what your name is, why you are taking the test, what are your plans, and so on. A sample introduction can be something like, my name is Roman and I'm doing this PTE test because I want to do further education in Australia. Most of the universities in Australia require English score, and that's why I'm doing this test. I hope a good score in this test will help me to get good scholarship in the universities. That's it. Something very simple. Just make sure you have 3-4 lines, ready-made lines, before you go to the exam, so that you feel more confident when the test starts. Okay, now the next part, of course, is your actual test. And in your actual test, the first type of question, or the first section you do, is speaking. And so what do you have to do in speaking? You have to speak with a computer. And that's something that makes many people nervous. And not just nervous, it's actually a little bit discomforting experience as well, because when we speak with humans, we have a two-way interaction. We don't have to keep speaking all the time. There will be something that they will also be saying to us, and based on that we can change our response. And naturally there will be response in there will be emotion in everything, because we are speaking with humans, something that we have been doing for so long. So we don't really need to think how to speak with humans, because we do that every day. But we have to think about how to speak with computers, because that's not something we do every day. So we have to learn how to bring emotion in our voice when speaking with computers. You are speaking with machines means you are more likely to be mechanical in your response as well. You are more likely to be flat in your tone. There will not be any emotion in your voice. But unfortunately, the system also looks at variation in your voice, like whether you are speaking as if you are speaking with a real human being or not. And because of that, if you forget that point, you may have problem in the exam. So try to speak as if you are speaking with a real human being. Now, let's look at the question types. The first question type you do in your test is called read aloud. So what happens in this question is you will be given a text like this, the one you see here, and your job is to read this text loud. And usually you will have around 40 seconds to do this. So you will see a recording window here, which shows you how much time is left before the recording starts. So you have 40 seconds most of the times for the recording. And after the 40 seconds are over, the microphone starts recording you. A very important point here is you have to start speaking in the first 3 seconds. If you don't say anything in the first 3 seconds, then the microphone automatically closes, and no matter what you say after that, it will not evaluate you. Another thing is, in your exam, if you stay silent for more than 3 seconds at any time, then the microphone does not record anything you say after that. So let's say that I'm reading this answer. Students who wish to take a break from their studies will need to put in an application for leave of absence. And then after that, let's say I don't speak for 3 seconds, then the microphone closes and it does not record anything at all. So this is read aloud. Very simple. You have to read aloud what you see on the screen. And this question type is very important question of speaking. One strange thing about PTE is when you are doing speaking, you are also being evaluated for other skills. For example, this is a question you are doing in a speaking section. So it should have been just the assessment of speaking. But interestingly, this question also evaluates your ability for reading. So whatever score you get after doing this section goes to speaking and also goes to reading. Now, don't think too much about it right now. Just make sure that you understand what you are supposed to do in this question. So in summary, I just told you 2 things. You have to read what is on the screen, and based on how you do that, you get a score for speaking and for reading. Before the recording starts, you have 40 seconds to prepare yourself. After 40 seconds, you see the recording bar there. Once you see that recording bar, you have to start speaking in the first 3 seconds. And if you look at the top here, top corner, right corner here, then you can see the total number of questions in this particular section, that is speaking, and the number of questions you are doing right now. So I'm doing the first question out of 35 questions in the speaking section of my test. This is the timer here, which shows you how much total time you have for speaking and how much time you have already spent. You don't really need to think much about time here because the time is fixed. You have 40 seconds to prepare, 40 seconds to speak. And of course, when you finish one question, you go to the next question. So let's say I have done this. What I do is I have to click next and go to the next question. And then again, the same thing happens. The recording starts and then you have, the timing starts. You have 40 seconds to prepare. In 40 seconds, you first make sure that you can read everything on the screen. You prepare yourself. And then once your 40 seconds are over, then the recording starts and you start speaking in front of the microphone. After you finish read aloud, the next question type you get is called repeat sentence. So let's see what happens in repeat sentence. So in repeat sentence, the speaker says a sentence, a complete sentence, which can be somewhere from around 5 words to sometimes up to 17 words long. What are you supposed to do? You are supposed to repeat that sentence exactly as the speaker did. And how well you can do that will determine how much score you will get. So there are some scoring criteria, there are some tips and tricks which you can learn in the live class we do every day on the weekdays, or you can learn from the many lessons we have in PTE study and practice section here. You can go to individual question type and find out how the scoring is done for different sections so that you know what are the important areas for getting highest score and how you can get the score. Okay, so repeat sentence is very simple question. You hear a sentence and you have to repeat it. Okay, and based on how much of the sentence you can repeat and how good your pronunciation and how good your fluency is, you get the points. Now, another important thing here is repeat sentence is a test of speaking as well as listening. Now, if you remember in Read Aloud, I told you that it's a test of reading and speaking because you have to read what is on the screen and then you have to read it loud to record yourself, and that's why that is the test of reading and speaking. This one, you have to listen to the sentence and then repeat it, which means you listen and speak. That's why this is a test of speaking and listening both. Don't think too much about scoring at the moment because you are a beginner and it's more important for you first to understand what kind of questions are asked and what you're supposed to do. This is just your orientation, so let's only focus on what we have to do. So again, I'm going very slow here and I will be repeating and revising and summarizing things again and again so that you can remember. So far what I have told you is, first thing you do is you have to give your introduction, then your test starts. The first question type you do is read aloud. You do 6 to 7 questions of read aloud. Then you do repeat sentence where you have to repeat a sentence after the speaker says it. Then you go to the third question type in speaking. And this is your next question. This question is called describe image. So what happens in this question is you'll be shown an image, as you can see here, and you will be given 25 seconds to think what you are going to say about this image. After 25 seconds, again, the recording starts and you will be given 40 seconds to describe whatever you see on the image. It looks like a difficult question, but trust me, it's very simple and it's very easy to answer this question. Again, later on, you can check the study and practice section to find out different ways you can answer this question and different ways you can trick the computer to answer this question to get more score. There are some scoring criteria that you have to know, and there is a template that you'll have to memorize. So what is a template? Template is like a pre-made answer. It's a ready-made answer which you can use in any type of question, whether you see a bar diagram, a pie chart, a line graph, a map, or whatever you see on the screen, you'll be able to use that template and get the score you are looking for. So after describe image, the next type of question we get is called retell lecture. So let's have a look at that question type now. So this is retell lecture question. So what happens in this question type is you listen to a lecture, which can be around 90 seconds long, and you listen to the lecture carefully. And once the lecture is over, you are given 10 seconds to think about your answer. After those 10 seconds are over, again, the microphone opens and then you start retelling that lecture. In a way, you have to retell the summary of that lecture. Whatever you heard in the lecture, you have to summarize it and say it again in 40 seconds. In a way, you are trying to compress the information in the lecture into a good summary. And this can be a little difficult in the beginning, but again, here also we have a template. So as you already know, a template is a pre-made answer. So what you should do in this question is first go to study and practice section and then memorize that template. Once you memorize the template, watch other tutorial videos where I have talked about using keywords and different other techniques to answer retell lecture questions without much problem. So it will help you to get maximum score possible from this section. Now, as you know that in this question type, you listen to the recording and then after that, you tell its summary or you retell that lecture as a summary of the actual lecture. So what are you doing here? You are listening and speaking, and that's why this is a test of listening and speaking both. So you'll get a score for both listening and speaking. So far, we have discussed 4 different types of questions. Read aloud, where you read aloud what you see on the screen. Then repeat sentence, where you repeat the sentence exactly as you hear it. Third is describe image, where you describe an image shown to you on the screen. Fourth is retell lecture, in which you listen to a lecture and then you summarize it in your own words and retell its summary in 40 seconds. The last question type in speaking is called answer short questions. So just like this, you'll hear a question and then you have to answer this question. You can answer the question in just one word. You can say glasses, you can say they wear glasses, or you can say the device or the thing that people wear to protect their eyes is called glasses. In whatever way you answer, you'll get the same point, because the main answer is glasses. As long as you say that word, you get points. So answer short questions come at the end of speaking. You get around 10 questions of answer short questions. And again, you listen to a question and you answer. That's why it is a test of listening and speaking. A very good way to get familiar with speaking section is by doing the mock mini test. So you can go to the study and practice section and do one mock mini test. And don't worry if you can't answer the questions that well, because of course you first have to get familiar with the structure of the test and then you can think about what to do. I highly recommend that you first experience the test. You first do certain questions and find out your problems so that you can do more focused preparation. It's not that you know nothing about speaking in English. You just perhaps do not know much about speaking of PTE. What I mean by that is there are certain things you already know how to do. There are certain things you'll have to learn. If you do a mock mini test, you'll find out what are the things you can do with the help of the skills you already have, and what are the things you have to learn from this class. And then you can only focus on those skills and get better quickly. So do mock mini test, or otherwise you can also try a complete mock test if you want to get a complete experience of the test.